Hello, everyone. I will start this class about post-production and the software we're going to use for video and photo uh, adjustments. So I will start by sharing my screen with software made by DaVinci Resolve, Blackmagic Design, which is free. It's free of charge. You can download it from the internet, and you can use it for free. So if we want to upload the clips we shared, we just have to click on the file, import media, and there's a page who's gonna open, and we can choose whatever clip we want to adjust. We have two kinds of clips here. We have an MP4, which is a compressed codec, MPEG-4 movie, and we have different files, which are raw files from Blackmagic Design 6K. So in this case, we have two cameras, which are both Super 35, but the codec, it's a different codec. We have a MPEG-4 and a raw file from a camera, which is a Sony mirrorless and the Blackmagic Design Pocket camera 6K. This Bro codec, it's the raw Blackmagic Design codec. So we have all those clips loaded in this timeline. This is the timeline we're going to use it, and we go straight to the color, where we can choose the clip we have to work on it. I will choose two different clips from those two cameras, which are definitely different because first we have a different resolution. This Sony mirrorless camera, it's a full HD, 1920 by 1080, and the Blackmagic Bro, which is a 6K camera, so 6,000 something pixel by 2,000, 3,000 something. Anyway, the resolution, we can find it here in if we go on camera here, we have also the resolution, which is right here. The ISO project settings, this is the resolution, 6144 by 3456. Anyway, to start the grading, we're gonna use those knobs, lift, gamma, gain, and offset. Lift, gamma, gain moves and expose, change the elevation of blacks, midtones, and highlights. So if we go on gain, you see the top of the curves are adjusted. The curves, I'm talking about those three curves here, which are RGB, red, green, blue, and this level of the whites are adjusted accordingly with what we want to do it. If we go on the blacks, we go as low as we want to have deeper blacks on the picture. So looking at the structure here, we can see how deep is the blacks there. If you want to see more details in the blacks, or on contrary, we want to have richer blacks, we have to go on the blacks down. And the gamma works on the midtones. Midtones means you adjust the middle of the interval which is in between highlights and blacks. On the offset, you adjust individually each of the curves. If it's too much blue, you go on yellow, which is the complementary of the blue. If it's too much red, you go towards the cyan. And that means you're reducing the cyan, the blue in the picture, which means there's going to be an overcast cyanish tint on the picture. You can also reset all the adjustments by just clicking this small arrow here in the corner. Well, getting further, we have to, let's say, add another node. Here, serial. And with this serial node, we can go on further and work on vignette. Vignette means this kind of shape. You can add it on the picture and make, let's say, a darker corners, like you see here. You just darken up the corners. You can change the softness of these corners by making them less soft or even more. And then look at without it and change and see how the picture looked before the selections and adjustments and how does it look now. Of course, on the main corrections, if there's too much blue on the picture, we can go on the warmer side on the side of the thing. We can change the saturation, and also we can adjust the hue from here. The hue means just the balance between green and magenta. As you can see here, we go on the greenish side. On the other side, we go on the magenta side. We can also just leave it like it was on the middle interval, which is a 50. What else? We can also do correction on each of the curves. If you go on the green per se, that means the green, you see the balance from those three curves is changing because we just decrease the green influence in the highlights. That means there's more magenta getting in the highlights, and you can see that in the sky and in the building. Also, we can add some intermediate nodes on the curve and make like an S-shaped curve, which brings a lot of hue in the blacks, just getting out, I mean, bringing out the green from the blacks means you add a little magenta in this area and then compensate it with the same thing in the highlights. It means you can add it overall a greenish tint in the picture. Again, just to see how it was without any correction and with it. And as a comparison, you can see how low the highlights are here. So If you go back on the opening shots, we see the whites, which are at the top of the RGB scale here, are pretty high. If you want to go even more higher to that, you have to adjust from the gain knob. Here on the wheels, we have also the log correction knobs, which also can adjust on spot highlights, mitten, shadow, as we can see in the, as I showed you before. So comparing the thing which is here in the picture with what it's corrected, of course the corrected picture looks a little better, but sometimes it's not as good as we want to have it. As I told you, this vignette, it's usually made to bring a little more contrast in the picture, and it is of course used to show how this whole picture would look without it. Yeah. So first we adjust the levels on the RGB channels, as you can see here on the bottom right, and then we just added a little bit of the different things. We just warmed up the whole thing. We can go even more warmer, more like a yellowish orangey thing. And then in the shadow, we can get a little bit on the other side, like cyanish blue. So here you can see on the right blue level, as the blacks are tinted with bluish or cyanish, which is more like a green bluish tint, or on the contrary, you add a little more red on the blacks. This is without it. Yeah, so with red on the blacks, without the red on the blacks. This is without the correction, and this is with correction. Further on, I will show you some correction on the other material, which is the compressed one, this one, which is already on H.264, which is a color space and codec. The problem with this material is because it's a cheaper camera and it doesn't have RAW format. The RAW means it keeps all the informations from the medium we're gonna shoot on, and the contrast and the tonal range is totally different than in the Blackmagic material. As you can see here in this area, even Sony, it's a pretty fine camera to shoot on. You can see the grain. The grain means those color red and bluish spots, which you can see here in the shadow. Let me just cut the sound, which is getting back on color. Oh, and doesn't matter. Oh, it's from here. Sorry. Okay. So this camera, even if it's let's say a very good camera, it does look different than the previous one. If we go back on the previous shot, which was shot with Blackmagic 6K Pocket, you can see the first resolution is different, and the noise in the shadow looks totally different. You can see this in the wide shot here, where the noise is not present in this part of the shadows, as you can see it in the other camera. Another problem with the mirrorless cameras is the one with anyway, it was a little spot on the lens here, as you can see it. But beside that, it's a camera who, because of the big ISO I used to show on this environment, it shows a lot of noise, as you can see it here and here. It's very obvious the noise all over, which doesn't look good on the big screen. Anyway, let's reduce the window and try to make a little correction, which I'm not sure is gonna do anything better, but let's try to make it. So if I'm brighten up the picture, then the noise is gonna show up even more than before, as you can see it here and here. So sometimes too much brightness is gonna show even more the grayness on the picture. So sometimes a darker picture will show and look better than a too bright picture. So here we can also look at the settings, and we have here the white balance was properly set, and the properties from the ISO, which was 6400, and this is about it. I mean, not much of the information regarding the specification of the camera and the specification which was shot on. As you can see, regarding the difference between this picture and this picture is obviously the differences in noise. Yeah, this picture had a lot of noise. This one has less noise, a little less noise, and it looks a little better. So let's try to correct this one and then compare with this one. So let's try to make it look similar. Not yet. as you can see, the overall feeling, it's totally different on this camera comparing with this one, because the the bit rate on the Blackmagic on the RAW format is 16-bit. On H.264, the Sony mirrorless camera, it's 8-bit, which means the level of the information color-wise, it's much higher on the Blackmagic RAW, comparing with Alpha 6000 Sony camera, which is a mirrorless, and of course a much cheaper one. Also, the resolution and property of the sensors are totally different on the both cameras. So let's try to make it as well the same. Corrections and okay. So let's see how it looked. This is before the correction started, and this is with the corrections added. Of course, it's a matter of how we feel about the color correction, because it's a matter of taste. As you can see here, the tones and the tints in the picture are totally different than the one here, which is more uniform. Is not so obvious regarding the saturation of different tints here, because as you can see, the red here is very, very saturated, and here as well, regarding and comparing with the Blackmagic design, which is not that saturated red here or here. Yeah, this one, as you can see, it is very saturated, and then it does pop up from the environment. I've shot it on, even if it's not even corrected. And if we want to go on the warmer correction, that gets even more saturated on the reds. This is as just want to show you the difference between the two uncorrected and corrected. Also, the difference between those two is also the difference how from the levels and the channels, how they've been corrected to show the contrast and the overall exposure. And of course, we can change the level of the things here.